like you're just letting everybody down all the time. You're never really just doing anything.
You guys get out of control.
Do you have any comments about P. Diddy and the allegations?
Go back and look. Don't lean.
Photo of Diddy's ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura since his arrest for the shocking allegations inside this 14-page indictment.
Hey Cassie, how are you? How do you feel about all the allegations with Diddy going on right now?
When he comes to a P. Diddy party, this is what happens to the white man.
Not a single celebrity has come out to defend Diddy. Not one.
One of J-Lo's past assistants has come forward and addressed J-Lo's involvement in Diddy's crime ring. And let me tell you, it's not what you think at all. Thea D'Souza, who worked with J-Lo on the 2002 film Made in Manhattan, posted a statement on Threads recently that said, "If you knew Jennifer Lopez, if you ever worked with her like I did, or if you were close with people who are like family to her like I am, you would know she did not have any idea about Diddy. She barely drinks, she's not a partier, she isn't a good time girl, she's a workaholic who uplifts women and who was charmed by him for a brief time in her life." Now, she emphasized that J-Lo does not deserve to be conflated with Diddy's shocking and criminal misdeeds. So, Thea claims that J-Lo is innocent in all of this, which is a great thing, and it's honestly good to see someone having J-Lo's back at a time like this. They've been digging up photos of J-Lo at parties and have been speculating a lot. Now, besides proof that J-Lo had been to some of his white parties, as she was his girlfriend, there's been zero proof that she had anything to do with the crimes Diddy committed, nor that she even knew about them. While her ex-assistant has stood up for her, J-Lo, for her part though, has stayed silent. And she probably will be for the time being, as she doesn't really address rumors or drama. It's obviously a sensitive subject and is something that the star doesn't want to discuss. So if you meet J-Lo, I'd suggest not asking her about Diddy. Besides, if she has something to say, she will say it eventually. It's a very sticky situation that she's in, and nobody is entitled to her opinion on the whole situation. Now, since breaking up with Diddy, J-Lo has claimed that he was unfaithful during their relationship. Now, maybe this is why she won't talk about him. She could still be hurt by all of this. Now, throughout their relationship and after their breakup, J-Lo was aware of rumors that Diddy was cheating on her. When the pair first met, Diddy essentially love-bombed her. He gave her a ton of attention and told her that he loved her almost immediately. J-Lo said this made her uncomfortable at first, but then she fell for him. As their relationship wore on though, the feelings of doubt crept back in. "It was the first time I was with someone who wasn't faithful," she told Vibe magazine after the breakup. "I was in this relationship with Puff where I was totally crying, crazy, and going nuts. It really took my whole life in a tailspin." Now, she grew increasingly concerned about his fidelity, saying, "I never caught him, but I just knew," she said of his cheating. He said he was going to the club for a couple of hours and then he'd never come back that night. Now, Diddy himself has admitted that he was often unfaithful in relationships. In a 2015 appearance on The Breakfast Club, he said his partners would often be frustrated with his behavior. Now, J-Lo later admitted they broke up and got back together far more than the public knew, which honestly isn't healthy at all. But in 2001, the couple ended things for good. It was scary, and we broke up many times before that and got back together and broke up again, and nobody knew about it. Now, it seems like J-Lo was more stressed out about everything regarding this relationship than participating in Diddy's extracurricular activities. Yes, she attended some of his parties, but that was only when they were dating, and she didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. I mean, when J-Lo was asked about Diddy in 2022 when she was on the Wendy Williams show, things got, well, awkward. Wendy asked if she and Diddy would ever get back together, and J-Lo laughed and shook her head as the camera panned to her mother sitting in the audience. Now, J-Lo's mother looked furious as she shouted no while waving her hand back and forth. Now, reposting the clip on Twitter, one fan wrote, "Some of y'all didn't catch J-Lo's mom's reaction when Wendy Williams said this." Yeah, I feel like this says a lot about their relationship. Clearly there was something going on and she didn't want to be associated with him anymore. And the fact that J-Lo's mom doesn't like Diddy, that speaks volumes. Recently, some shocking information was revealed from someone who attended Diddy's exclusive parties. On November 1st, former model Rachel Kennedy appeared on Daily Mail's The Trial of Diddy podcast to share her experience. Now, during her appearance, Rachel revealed that when she met Diddy in the year 2000, Diddy allegedly played J-Lo's music videos on a continuous loop in his hotel room while he was reportedly on the phone with the singer. It was kind of an odd thing to find out that we were watching J-Lo's video, she said, describing it as it's a little bit creepy and very disrespectful. Yeah, I'd have to agree with Rachel on that. Rachel, along with two friends, was invited to Diddy's hotel room for a party after meeting him at Seventh Heaven, a topless club in Japan. She shared that it quickly became clear that this was not the type of party they had expected. Rachel recounted that she and her friends initially found Diddy friendly and decided to stay, even after noticing some wild behavior around them. We went in, we didn't think anything strange, he was friendly enough, so we decided, okay, we'll just hang out with him, she said. Now things took a turn though, and it's now believed that this was actually one of Diddy's freak-offs. Rachel went on to say when she and her friends were with Diddy, suddenly one of his bodyguards barged into the room and he looked so violent and angry. He then ejected the women from the room, which came off as a shock to them. She said, "We just couldn't believe what was happening. First of all, how does he have that much access to Puff Daddy's room? That's the first thing I thought. How does he just come in like that?" Looking back at the strange experience, she alleged that the Bad Boy Records founder teaches them the behavior as he's their boss. She added, "He is the puppet master of all of this, and this is why people think it's okay, because he's teaching them that this kind of behavior is acceptable. He's like a cult leader and these people are his disciples," she said. Now this makes sense, as it's been released that Diddy had plenty of rules his employees had to follow when it came to finding him women. A former party planner who worked with Diddy during 2004 and 2005, who wished to remain anonymous, stated that women attending these parties were subjected to weight checks. "We would do a weigh-in if necessary. The girls had to be young and hot, so I always had a scale nearby in case I needed to make sure. The number was 140 pounds, but if a girl was really tall, there was a little bit of discretion involved," said the planner, adding that other requirements included no flab, no cellulite, no overly pierced or tattooed, and no short hair. Now the dress code reportedly demanded women wear short dresses, with high stilettos being a non-negotiable. No pants, no jeans, no flat shoes. Every girl had to wear a party dress, preferably very short, just enough to cover her butt cheeks but no longer than mid-thigh, cleavage showing. And every single one of them had to be wearing stilettos. That one, there was no exception, high stilettos. The New York Post quoted the planner as saying. Now it seems like we won't find out more from J-Lo regarding this whole situation unless she's called on to testify in court. But with everything that's been released about Diddy, J-Lo is the least of our problems. She is notoriously one of the most difficult celebrities to work with. She was one of 6 models of her generation declared supermodels by the fashion industry and the international press, and I think it's safe to say that this got to her head, and she thought that she could behave however she wanted. Back in 1998, Georgina Galanis filed a lawsuit claiming Naomi became physical with her while they were on a work trip in Canada. Amongst the shocking allegations Georgina brought to light, she alleged that Naomi grabbed her by the throat and even hit her with a phone. Along with that, in 2004, her maid claimed to have been slapped in the face. In 2005, her personal assistant alleged Naomi had smacked her around the head with a BlackBerry, while another associate accused her of coming over like Mike Tyson after they wore the same dress to an event. In 2006, she was arrested on suspicion of attacking her drugs counselor, while a former housekeeper sought damages and claimed that she was a violent super bigot. Now in 2007, she was sentenced to community service after assaulting her New York maid, who had required stitches after Naomi beat her around the head with a crystal-encrusted phone when she couldn't find a certain pair of jeans. Yeah, that sounds absolutely horrible, and I have no idea why anyone would want to work for her. Then an online user spoke of their experience with Bruce Willis and said this. His movie Hostage was being filmed in several locations of Azusa Canyon. I was a member of a non-profit charity organization that had a sizable gated lot off the base of the canyon, and our location was perfect for many production crews as they could leave all their equipment safely stored overnight. The lot was rented quite often for that purpose. During filming, Mr. Willis would come and go through the lot, where his trailer was also located. Occasionally, a member of the organization would approach him to greet him or ask him for a quick pic, and each and every time without fail, Mr. Willis would stare the person down and quite often say something to them that included his obviously well-rehearsed F-bombs. One instance in particular, I was arriving with one of the senior members of the organization for an early morning meeting. We, after clearing the massive security detail to get into our own lot, parked the car and proceeded to walk towards the entrance of the building. Like any normal human being in a social situation, we wished good morning to the people that we happened to be passing. Honestly, I didn't even realize who it was until he turned his head in our direction and said, "F you." Yikes. On the website Quora, Emily Watford, who worked at the arena where J-Lo once performed, detailed how her niceness is so fake disgusting. Everything in her room had to be white, she made them close and sanitize the entire child playroom for only her kid or kids, whatever she has. And that isn't too bad. If you got the money to do that, then do it, she said. But Emily added what was bad that a doorman looked at her and apparently she hates when staff look at her. So she started yelling at whoever about it in front of the doorman like he wasn't there. He said, "So much for Jenny from the block," as she got him fired. Now that's not all though, as according to HuffPost UK, the singer has reportedly banned staff from working on her new home from talking or making eye contact with her. And she allegedly gave these requirements for a new assistant. The person has to be graceful under pressure, have thick skin, and be resourceful in foreign countries. You'll be on call 24/7, you have to change diapers, work on little sleep, and cook if the butler is away. Now, according to several of J-Lo's former staff members, Jennifer earned herself the nickname Pay-Lo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. Now she just treats people like trash and wants to be treated like a queen. Harold Ramis was directing the film Groundhog Day and Bill Murray was starring in it, although Bill was not behaving properly. Now Bill was so fed up with the studio and Harold that he would dodge phone calls, be late to shoots, and basically just blew them off. The communication between himself, the studio, and the director was so poor that they suggested Bill get an assistant to deal with all of that. So he hired a personal assistant who was profoundly deaf, did not have oral speech, only spoke American Sign Language, which Bill did not speak, nor did anyone else in the production, Harold told Entertainment Weekly. But Bill said, "Don't worry, I'm going to learn sign language," and I think it was so inconvenient that in a couple weeks he gave that up. That's anti-communication, you know, let's not talk. Yeah, now that's just insane for everyone involved, and that poor assistant, they probably had no idea what was going on. Now we all know in 2022, Amber Heard had a defamation trial with her ex-husband Johnny Depp. As part of that trial, her former assistant Kate James testified, and she worked for Amber from 2012 to 2015. Now in her testimony, she made some pretty shocking allegations about what working for her was really like. Kate claimed in court that Amber would often scream at her and allegedly use illegal substances. She also accused Amber of spitting in her face during her employment, but that was hardly the first time Kate made some dark allegations about her former employer. You see, 2 years earlier, she spoke out against Amber in another trial, this time when Johnny Depp took on the British tabloid The Sun over an op-ed piece Amber had written for the outlet. Now that time, Variety reported that Kate accused Amber of sending her rude and hurtful messages early in the morning on more than one occasion. She also claimed that Amber took her personal story of being an SA survivor and used it as her own. Now Amber had a different version of this story though, as when she took the stand, she spoke out against Kate's allegations and overall character, as she told the court that her former assistant was not easy to work with. Kate's behavior was horrible, she stated. Now, per NBC News, Graham Chase Robinson accused Robert De Niro of allegedly touching her without her permission and making lewd comments while in her presence. Not only that, but Graham said she was asked to do tasks that she wasn't expecting while working for the actor, including household chores and even scratching him on the back. Now, as for what Robert had to say about the allegations, he made it pretty clear he wasn't going to co-sign on his former assistant's take of events, with his lawyers telling Us Weekly, "The allegations made made by Graham Chase Robinson against Robert De Niro are beyond absurd. But that wasn't the only drama in this situation, as Graham's allegations came as a part in a countersuit. Roberts Canal Productions had actually filed a lawsuit against Graham that same year, accusing her of not doing her job properly. Now, the company alleged that she had a tendency to buy things using her company card, and also supposedly enjoyed watching TV while she was supposed to be working. Now, Robert also speculated per TMZ that Graham had only made her allegations in retaliation for the initial lawsuit. Now, in recent years, BuzzFeed News spoke to former employees on the Ellen DeGeneres show, all who remained anonymous. They said they were fired after taking medical leave or bereavement days to attend family funerals. One employee, who claims that she was fed up with comments about her race, essentially walked off the job, and honestly, good for her. Others said they were instructed by their direct managers to not speak to Ellen if they saw her around the office. Now, most of the former employees blamed executive producers and other senior managers for the day-to-day toxicity, but one former employee said that ultimately it's Ellen's name on the show and she really needs to take more responsibility for the workplace environment. Now, if she wants to have her own show and have her name on the show title, she needs to be more involved in what's going on, one former employee said. It's also said that Ellen only appears to be bubbly and down to earth on camera, but backstage she is demanding and rude to her staff. In fact, the same anonymous source revealed that after hours, staffers get together and talk about Queen Ellen. A few had even quit because of her behavior. And what is Ellen's behavior to her staff, you may ask? Well, apparently she explodes at staffers over the tiniest things. Yeah, Ellen doesn't sound like a fun person to work for. And finally, in 2012, Lady Gaga's assistant Jennifer O'Neill brought a lawsuit against her that claimed that the singer owed her roughly $390,000 for more than 7,000 hours of overtime. During her 13-month stint as the singer's helper, Jennifer said she was expected to be on call 24/7, wake the star up, and even make sure she had a towel waiting after a shower. She added that the two frequently slept in the same bed because Jennifer never had her own hotel room while on tour and was required to address Gaga's needs throughout the night. Now, that is just wrong. The Daily Mail also revealed that during a videotaped deposition, Gaga was quoted as saying, "Jennifer is an effing hood rat who is suing me for money that she didn't earn." Yikes.
In March of 2012, Kim Kardashian was doused in flour while walking the red carpet at the launch of her perfume. I think it was called True Reflection. She was in West Hollywood. Now, prior to that, she was looking super cute. She was wearing these tight black pants, a matching blazer, a bright blue blouse. Like, it was a really cute fit. But the flour wound up covering like the entire upper half of her body and her hair, and it looked so gross. So at the time, she and her momager, Chris, they were quickly ushered into a private room. They, cleaned up, whatever, went back out. And Kim was like laughing it off. She said, "That is probably the craziest, unexpected, weird thing that ever happened to me. Like, I said to my makeup artist that I wanted more powder, and that's a whole lot of translucent powder right there. And like, I love laughing it off. Comedy's great." Apparently, the assailant reportedly ran off after throwing the flour, but then was intercepted by somebody who worked for Kim, held until the police arrived. She was arrested, but Kim didn't press charges, so the woman was released. And at the time, it was speculated that the attack was animal rights oriented. The woman allegedly shouted, "Fur hog," when she threw the flour. Sure, previously before that, PETA had called Kim out for her love of fur, but the organization denied that they were involved, and trust me, they're allowed to take credit for things that they do. Also, Kim wasn't wearing fur that day. This is not the Victoria's Secret fashion show, folks. So, Kim Kardashian's former media strategist, Shiraz Hassan, alleged that the infamous incident was actually staged to help promote the perfume. In the documentary The Kardashians' Billion-Dollar Dynasty, he claimed he told her, "Okay, this is what's gonna happen. You're going to be fine, you're going to be safe, but we're going to create a media moment. If we create media gold, guess what's gonna happen? Everyone's going to be talking about your perfume, everyone's going to buy it." Okay, whatever floats your boat. I don't think it's worth being covered in flour for. Lady Gaga was once involved in a bitter lawsuit with a former assistant, Jennifer O'Neill, and declared in court papers she was queen of the universe every day and O'Neill did not want to be her slave. So in the court papers, Lady Gaga apparently complained that O'Neill failed in simple duties, such as laying out her toothbrush and soap so she knew where they were. She insisted that O'Neill lived large off of her dime, wore her clothes, bagged the best bed on her private jet, and left the poor diva to lug her own suitcases. Meanwhile, disgruntled O'Neill sued for over $400,000 in unpaid overtime plus damages and testified that she was required to sleep in Gaga's bed because she didn't sleep alone and was expected to be working and available 24/7 for an annual salary of just $75,000. Such hours and demands might seem absurd to those outside of showbiz circles, but they're kind of par for the course. There's no such such thing as overtime or having your own life when you work in showbiz. And thankfully, the two settled out of court, but like, what was true here and what was a fib? Hakoop Manoukian began chauffeuring J-Lo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011. Now, by September of that year, he was gone from her staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination, and this was against J-Lo, her company, and her manager, Benny Medina. He claimed his agreement with J-Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 yearly. But according to news outlets, he never received that production pay or the overtime. He claimed he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. Now, J-Lo filed a countersuit against him, seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was blackmailing her for $2.8 million because he was threatening to expose private information that he heard when chauffeuring her around. The countersuit also alleged that he became hostile and angry when J-Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. Now, the countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and they wound up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February 2013, but this isn't the only former J-Lo staffer we're talking about today. Scott Barnes, an incredible makeup artist. He was credited with creating the signature technique that became J-Lo's glow in the early 2000s. It was like the look of the era. These two worked together from like the year 2000 until just recently. He was her personal makeup artist. He worked on Hustlers with her. He worked on the Super Bowl halftime performance. He worked on everything. The working relationship and friendship was like 2 decades long. But there's been some hiccups, and it doesn't seem like the two are like buddy-buddy anymore. Let me know if I'm wrong though. So he spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show. So there was rumors circulating that Barnes and a couple of others leaked plans of J-Lo and Mark Anthony's secret marriage to the press, and nobody was talking to Barnes after that. He said, oh my gosh, nobody would talk to me. Now when the truth came out that he did not leak the news, he didn't even know about the wedding ahead of time, he got a phone call and it was like, hey, there's a big misunderstanding, we have a lot of stuff coming up, I really miss you, let's just get back to work. And great that he was so diplomatic in talking about all of this, considering it was like a whole fallout, but it's very clear he never got a direct apology. Also, at the time when that hiccup happened, it was really fast when the two reconciled, but it looks like they might be on the outs again, so maybe we'll get another tell-all. Mariah Carey's former personal assistant, Leah Azarian, claimed she was subject to battery and harassment during her approximately 2 years of employment before being wrongfully terminated by the pop diva. I think that was in 2017. Now, that's according to a lawsuit that was filed with the Los Angeles Superior Court on that same day, which was the day that Mariah Carey sued Leah, accusing her former assistant of secretly filming embarrassing videos, which was in violation of a standard NDA. Oh, and apparently the assistant was trying to extort her out of like $8 million. So according to a copy of the 32-page complaint from Leah, she said she was hired by Mariah Carey in September 2015 at a salary of $250,000 per year. That eventually increased to almost like $330,000. She claimed the job entailed her to be on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to assist Mariah Carey and the manager. According to the lawsuit, Leah claims the manager subjected her to verbal and physical harm, ridiculing her about body parts, making physical contact, and a lot of things that I can't repeat, but like, look it up. On multiple occasions, Leah claimed the manager tackled her to the ground and then like did things to her. And apparently, according to the lawsuit, Mariah Carey knew about and was present for a lot of this alleged mistreatment and like allowed it to continue. And when Leah complained about the conduct in October 2017, she was let go. So obviously she sued for battery, discrimination, harassment, and wrongful termination. According to a lot of news outlets, Mariah Carey's lawsuit accuses Leah of being a grifter, a peeping Tom, and an extortionist, and claimed Leah secretly filmed Mariah engaged in personal activities, which, if revealed, would be personally embarrassing and professionally damaging. Well, Leah displayed the intimate videos allegedly to her friends and coworkers, and she said, hey, if I'm ever fired, I'm gonna sell these for a profit and buy myself a home. Well, girly pop, where are the videos? Because if they're not on the internet, she didn't do it. In an interview for the unauthorized Anna, a biography, Anna Wintour's garden designer, Miranda Brooks, said that Anna Wintour didn't like vegetables and therefore refused to plant a veggie garden at her Long Island home. Now, if we're talking about all of Anna's former staff, being her assistant was apparently exactly like how it was portrayed in The Devil Wears Prada. Love that movie. She has 3 assistants at any given time. Her first, primary assistant. Second one takes care of the home and the dogs, which at one point She had like all golden doodles, which like, so cute. And the third is in charge of running errands and organizing Anna's clothes, which like, I would not want to be in charge of that. One former assistant said they were terrified to ride in the elevator with her because Anna would list off everything they needed to do, even though they weren't like by their desks to write this down. So they're just like, oh, we kind of have to like remember all this. They were also scared to leave their desks to even just go to the bathroom. Anna would typically address all of them using the first assistant's name until she was sure they were actually gonna last.
Like, there's always been rumors that Leah Michele was hard to work with on the set of Glee, but they were really confirmed in 2020 when fellow co-stars called her out for being mistreated by her. It appears that a lot of the main cast don't even speak to Leah anymore. Now, later that year, Heather Morris spoke out about Leah, saying, was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Leah to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe that she should be called out, and yet it's also on us, because to allow it to go on for so long without speaking out is something we're learning along with the rest of society. Then in 2021 she revealed, we absolutely could have stepped up and gone to the Fox execs and said how we felt about the situation, but no one did. I think many people were very scared, and I know genuinely I felt like it wasn't my place, and I don't know why, because I was a cast member, she said. Now Heather then added that the only person honest about Leah's attitude on Glee was the late Naya Riviera. In Naya's 2016 memoir, she claimed that their relationship started to break down because her character began getting bigger plot lines and more screen time. Naya said, I think Leah didn't like sharing the spotlight, which isn't that surprising. Naya claims that things got so bad that the two were barely speaking by the end of her time on the show. Now insiders also say that Leah made unreasonable demands on the set of Glee, which included having her own makeup artist and food catered from LA restaurants. Now according to the rumors, she's even been known to mock fans behind their backs. Now Chevy Chase has quite a reputation in Hollywood. He was an original member of Saturday Night Live and was on the show for 2 years. While on the show, there were rumblings of him being difficult to work with and just straight up egotistical. After leaving, he came onto the show to host 8 times. However, his 8th time hosting would be his last after it was learned that Chevy hit a cast member in the back of the head. Creator and producer Lorne Michaels ended up banning Chevy from coming on the show, but he later returned for smaller roles. Then there was his time on the show Community. He ended up using a racial slur during an on-set rant about his character arc, which resulted in him walking off set. Chevy also never had a good relationship with showrunner Dan Harmon. Now after Chevy refused to film an important scene in season 3, Dan reportedly called him out at a wrap party. Chevy then left an angry voicemail on the showrunner's phone, and due to this he made a deal with NBC and his character was killed off the show, and that was that. Now it since appears that he has a difficult time getting roles as his reputation is so bad. Although Marlon Brando was a Hollywood legend starting in countless iconic films, the more successful he got in his career, the harder it was to work with him. I mean, The Island of Dr. Moreau is famously one of the most chaotic films ever made, both in terms of the movie itself, but also the shooting process. Now part of this was due to the behavior of Marlon, who would mostly just stay in his trailer, quote, eating copious amounts of pizza and not opening the door to anyone. When he did come out to shoot some scenes, however, he insisted on doing things his way, which included him wearing all white face paint, wearing a dress, and having an ice bucket strapped to the top of his head. Now he also got very attached to actor Nelson De La Rosa, one of the shortest men of the last 2 centuries, measuring under 28 inches tall. Now speaking about Marlon just doing whatever he wanted, director John Frankenheimer said, Brando absolutely fell in love with this guy. He put him on his chest in the hammock and sang Frog 1 accounting to him. There was 90 minutes of that. This is all I can persuade Brando to do. In general though, he often refused to memorize his lines and would force the actors to wear cue cards to help him with his lines. Now this is absolutely crazy that people would even put up with this. Now Alec Baldwin has quite a temper, which has led to many outbursts and people not wanting to work with him. There were a lot of reports during the show 30s Rock that Alec was often late and held up production. He used to yell at the crew and cast, and had a habit to complain about ridiculous things like the air being too dry. Cheyenne Jackson, who was working with him on 30 Rock, once said, what I learned from him was really good comedic timing and don't get in his light. Now from getting in fights with the paparazzi and cast members, a lot of people won't hire him, especially after what happened on the Rust movie set. Now in 2007, a voicemail that he left for his young daughter was leaked where he was yelling at her and called her a rude, thoughtless little pig for not answering a scheduled phone call, and said she had humiliated him for the last time. Then in 2011, Alec was kicked off an American Airlines flight after he refused to turn off his cell phone when crew members asked him to. A statement posted to the American Airlines Facebook page read, "The passenger was extremely rude to the crew, calling them inappropriate names and using offensive language." So yeah, if that's how he acts in public and in the privacy of his own home, I'm sure he's horrible on set too. Daniel Day-Lewis is known for his dedication to method acting, but honestly, a lot of the time he went too far, which made working with him extremely difficult. When he was playing a man who suffered from cerebral palsy in the film My Left Foot, he had to be lifted to his car every morning and driven to the studio where he'd be transported into a wheelchair and taken onto the set. Now they would even have to carry him in his wheelchair over cables to get to the actual set. Now this would be repeated at the end of the day of filming, and he'd be taken to restaurants around Dublin and insist on being spoon-fed like his character would have been. Now he also refused to call anyone by their name or be called by anything but his character. Now this was extremely prevalent with his film Lincoln, where he played Abraham Lincoln. He made the cast and crew call him Mr. President, and even the director Steven Spielberg had to call him that too. Now apparently this went on for the entire length of production, and he didn't break character for 3 months. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who played Lincoln's son, said of the actor, "I never met Daniel in person, I only ever met the president. I called him sir, he called me Robert." Now Bill Murray has been in the industry for a long time, but it's a shocker that people still want to work with him after all these stories that have come out against him. Now Bill was not behaving properly while on the set of Groundhog Day. Now Bill was so fed up with the studio and the director that he would dodge phone calls, be late to shoots, and just straight up ignore them all. Now the communication between himself, the studio, and director Harold Ramis was so poor that they suggested Bill get an assistant to deal with all of that. So he hired a personal assistant that was profoundly deaf, did not have oral speech, spoke only American Sign Language, which Bill did not speak, nor did anyone else in the production, Harold told Entertainment Weekly. But Bill said, "Don't worry, I'm going to learn sign language," and I think it was so inconvenient that in a couple of weeks he gave that up. Yeah, that sounds like it would make things extremely difficult. Then there's the fact that Bill didn't always get along with his co-stars, including Lucy Liu, who called out the star a couple years ago. And Mike Myers is well known for starring in Shrek and Cat in the Hat, but it said that he was very difficult to work with. It said that he had a powerful hold on the production of Cat in the Hat, and he was afforded a level of control and freedom to do whatever he wanted, as his co-star Amy Hill remembered. According to Amy, Mike even had a man whose sole responsibility was to hold his chocolates for him and bring him them when he wanted some. She said it was just a horrible, nightmarish experience. "I don't think Mike got to know anybody. He'd just be with his people and walk away. People would come and he'd stand there. There was a guy who held his chocolates in a little Tupperware. Whenever he needed chocolate, he'd come running over and give him a chocolate. That's what divas are like, I guess. Or people who need therapy," she said. That sounds absolutely crazy, and it's been said that Mike feels the need to have control over everything on set, which makes it difficult for people to do their jobs.
J.Lo and Mariah Carey have been very obvious rivals in the music industry for as long as I can remember. So naturally, when one of J.Lo's assistants left to work with Mariah Carey, J.Lo was not having it. Leah had been a longtime assistant to J.Lo before bolting to join Mariah Carey in 2013, and reportedly the key factor in the departure was J.Lo's boyfriend at the time, Casper Smart. Smart allegedly had free reign throughout the house and would treat J.Lo's staff very poorly with no resistance, and that upset Gilly, a source told Radar Online. Casper always insisted that Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that they get him drinks, do things for him. That was not their job. According to several of J.Lo's former staff members, J.Lo earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff around 50% less than they could make elsewhere. And this rumor's been going on for a year, so I'm talking like way back in 2003 when J.Lo was spotted in Vegas with boyfriend at the time, Ben Affleck. Well, this was the first time. They had a big win. Ben was like, "Yeah, I'll tip the dealer $2,000. But before the dealer could take that reward, J.Lo was like, $200 instead. Now, folks have asked J.Lo, like, why do you pay your staff so little? She's like, "I had to work hard to earn my money. Everybody else should too." And like, honestly, that's just so embarrassing for her. I think if you had to work hard to earn your money, you'd want to make it easier for others because you know how hard it is. It's just entitled behavior. It's gross. Come on, girl. Jacob Manoukian began chauffeuring J.Lo and her then husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011, at least according to the sources at TMZ. By September of that year, though, Manoukian was gone from J.Lo's staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination, and this was against J.Lo, her company, and her manager, Benny Medina. Manoukian claimed his agreement agreement with JLo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 per year. According to E, however, he claims that he received no production pay or overtime whatsoever. CNN further reported that the suit claimed he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. JLo filed a countersuit against Manookian, seeking $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was allegedly blackmailing her for $2.8 million, as he threatened to expose private information he overheard when chauffeuring her. The countersuit also alleged that Manookian became hostile and angry after JLo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video, at least according to The Hollywood Reporter. JLo's countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and they wound up settling Manookian's original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February of 2013. So back in 2002, JLo starred in the romantic comedy Made in Manhattan. She was all over the world. She was promoting this, but when she was in London, people were talking, and not about the movie, about her demands. She had very interesting encounters with hotel staff. So she was staying at the Metropolitan Hotel. They were like, okay, this girl is like a class A diva. The hotel staff was like astounded by her lavish and extravagant demands because it was reaching levels they had never seen before. She was asking for thousands of pounds of lemon-scented candles, and also, even if she's traveling a short distance, JLo's not walking down the block. She had 7 limousines escort her to lunch at a restaurant that was only 200 yards away. This isn't the only report of her diva behavior though. In 2012, reports surfaced that staff working for her, yeah, don't make eye contact with me, don't speak with me. While having work done on her San Fernando Valley home, she was like, yeah, any of the helpers, the drivers, the contractors, do not interact with me. Technically, these rumors were never confirmed, I do have to say that, but like, come on. And reportedly, when flying first class, nobody's gonna bother her, not even the flight attendant, and like, that is their job. One time, somebody was like, oh, would you like a drink? And she did not answer. She instead turned to her assistant and said, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime. Now, once again, like, girl, you can just talk to somebody, it's not that big of a deal. If you don't want to be interrupted, put on headphones like everybody else. So, JLo once had somebody fired for being a fan. Preeta Dash just happened to be cleaning JLo's hotel room in Germany during her big 2012 world tour. And like, she was a fan. She was like, hey, like, can I please get your autograph? And 2 of the assistants were like, oh no, girl, don't do it, don't do it. Soon after, Dodge was out of a job, and she knew why. Because a day later, after the request for an autograph, the cleaning company that employed her at the hotel called and said that JLo had complained, and she was fired over the phone because of an autograph. Now, JLo has denied the claim. She was tweeting out saying like, thought you knew me better than this, would never get anyone fired over an autograph. First I heard of this was on Twitter, and it's like, okay, maybe you didn't say fire her, but you obviously complained because somebody wanted an autograph. In 2003, Endeavor Talent Agency reportedly gave JLo an ultimatum to either leave them or fire her manager Benny Medina, as they found him too high maintenance, at least according to news outlets. Well, in a shocking move, JLo did fire Medina, but then also fired her Endeavor agent Patrick Whitesell and signed with rival agency CAA. Now, this was during the time when JLo and Ben Affleck were a couple. Whitesell had long represented Ben Affleck and had added JLo a couple months before the firing. Despite gaining traction in her acting career and, once again being the girlfriend of Ben Affleck at the time, the agency still chose to put her in a tough position. And while it was JLo who kind of put the end on the professional relationship, Endeavor seemingly made it public that they didn't value her enough to figure out how to make things work with her manager. So see if you can spot the unsubtle shade in Endeavor's statement about the fallout, which attempted to make the firing seem like a mutual decision, while also throwing Medina under the bus and firing at JLo's decision making. Here's the quote, folks. Endeavor has parted company with Jennifer Lopez. Jennifer is an incredibly talented actress and a good friend, and we wish her much continued success. However, as an agency, we were no longer able to work with her manager, Benny Medina. We thought it best for Jennifer and Endeavor that we part company at this time. You literally could have taken out that entire second last sentence. We did not need that. You could have just been like, oh, we wish her much continued success, and ended it there. Would have been a lot less messy. Forbes credits makeup artist Scott Barnes with creating the signature technique that became JLo's iconic glow, which in turn became the preferred look of the era. The two had worked together since the year 2000, whether it was serving as JLo's personal makeup artist for her role in 2019's Hustlers or for the Super Bowl halftime performance. And while their working relationship and friendship spans 2 decades, there was a time where Barnes apparently didn't have her love. He spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show after rumors circulated that he and 2 others leaked plans of JLo and Anthony's secret marriage. JLo's team completely shunned Barnes. He's like, nobody would talk to me. It was like I had like an incurable disease. And when the truth came out that Barnes did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he got a phone call, presumably from JLo, and he was like, oh, it was a call where it was like, hey, it was a big misunderstanding. We have like a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work. And although Barnes was extremely diplomatic in his recounting of the temporary fallout, it's clear that he never got a direct apology, And by the way, they reconciled, but he's still choosing to talk about it, so obviously he's hurting. An ex-private airport employee called JLo a nightmare person on Twitter before dishing out several stories about negative interactions with the superstar. Twitter user @MoiraWebb claimed she worked at a private airport on Long Island when JLo was in a relationship with Mark Anthony. She's like, I have so many stories about her being a rude and nasty person. It's gross to say, but each time she fails at anything, it delights me. That's like next level hating. Like, surely, okay, we know JLo's bad, but like, is it that bad? So Webb told like 5 separate stories on Twitter about interactions with Lopez, and they range anywhere from the bizarre to just plain mean, but it sure seems like JLo doesn't care about people beyond herself. We have one of them today. So she had a standing catering order, even if she was only going like 20 minutes away, and one of those things on that rider was a KFC bucket. And she was flying out in the morning before KFC usually opens, and her team freaked out that they didn't have it there. She, our narrator, was demanded to go get some. She was given some cash by the team. So she drove like a bat out of hell, begged KFC to open early, make one for her, and they were excited because they're like, oh my god, it's JLo! And they made one, but like our poor girl didn't have nearly enough cash, so thankfully they were like, okay, let's give you like a discount, we'll cover it, whatever. And as she's speeding back, she looks up and she sees the flight taking off. Even though like her entire team was like, she's not gonna leave without this KFC. They just sent her to do that as a punishment, I guess. JLo, who has famously declared, don't be fooled by the rocks that I got, I'm still Jenny from the block, has weathered tales of her alleged snobbery for years. In just one instance reported by the Daily Star, when contractors were hired for a job that could take up to a year on JLo's old house, those contractors were reportedly informed that they were not to communicate directly with the international star. A source told the tabloids that she has made it clear that if any of the contractors, drivers, or domestic help make eye contact or speak to her, she will not be impressed. JLo's supposed superficial superstar antics apparently extend to service workers who just aren't directly in her employ, but who have the unfortunate one-time experience of being snubbed by her. A source said she doesn't speak to salespeople, she doesn't speak to restaurant people, she doesn't speak to hotel staff, flight attendants, she only talks through her assistants. A United Airlines flight attendant backed up this claim, sharing a similar experience with the singer. I just said, what can I get you to drink? But Jennifer refused to even acknowledge them. They added that she turned her head away and told her personal assistant, please tell him I'd like a Diet Coke and lime. She wouldn't even look at me. Now, according to the sources I found, Jennifer has an extreme thing about people looking at her, other than when she's on stage. Then everybody's gotta look at her. Otherwise, if small, unimportant people look at her and, God forbid, open their little unimportant mouths to speak to her holiness, she does whatever she can to retaliate. If they're servers or anyone she can get fired, she gets them fired. In 2013, JLo's morals came into question when it was reported that she earned in the neighborhood of $10 million performing for shady dictators, at least according to news outlets. Also, apparently, the Human Rights Foundation and a lot of folks were very critical of JLo's decision to put on a private performance in Turkmenistan for the president at the time, whose government allegedly restricted free speech and imprisoned those who spoke against the nation's alleged corruption. JLo's then publicist Mark Young issued a response, however, and the statement made JLo's team appear really ill-informed. They said this was not a government-sponsored event or political in nature. The event was vetted by her reps. Had there been knowledge of human rights issues of any kind, Jennifer would not have attended. Well, that statement probably didn't go over well, considering how Human Rights Watch's Rachel Denber, Deputy Director for Europe and Central Asia Division, explained that JLo's team didn't have to dig deep for information that would have revealed the controversy surrounding the whole presidential leadership corruption stuff. It was something even JLo herself could have discovered. Denber literally said, just do a few Google clicks, look up the human rights record, it's right there, it's easy to find. Well, 2 months after the backlash, Young was fired from JLo's team. With the whole fiasco going boom in everybody's face, was it possible Young eventually took the fall for what appeared to be some blame shifting after the fact? I think so. Forbes credits makeup artist Scott Barnes with creating the signature technique that became Lopez's iconic glow, which in turn became the preferred look of the era in the early 2000s. The makeup artist has worked with JLo since the year 2000, whether it was serving as JLo's personal makeup artist for her role in 2019's Hustlers, or for the Super Bowl performance, or whatever it may be. And while their working relationship and friendship spans 2 decades, there was a time when Barnes apparently didn't have her love. Barnes spilled the beans during an interview on the Jeff Probst show after rumors circulated that Barnes and 2 others leaked plans of JLo and Anthony's secret marriage. JLo's team shunned him. He said, nobody would talk to me. It was like I had some sort of disease. When the truth came out that Barnes did not leak the news or even know about the wedding ahead of time, he received a phone call, presumably from JLo, whom Barnes claimed said the following. It was like, hey, it was a big misunderstanding. We have a lot of stuff coming up and I really miss you, so let's just get back to work. And although Barnes was extremely diplomatic in his recounting of the temporary fallout, it's clear that he never received received a direct apology, or even a real apology. What's even more interesting is that considering Barnes and Lopez quickly reconciled, he chose not to keep this story about her in-house. So I guess he's the one person she didn't have sign an NDA? Hakkad Manoukian began chauffeuring J-Lo and her then-husband Mark Anthony around in 2005 before eventually being promoted to Lopez's staff full-time as her personal head of security and transportation in early 2011, at least according to TMZ. By September of that year, Manoukian was gone from J-Lo's staff, after which he filed a lawsuit for breach of contract and wrongful termination against J-Lo, her company, New Yorkin Productions, and manager Benny Medina. Manoukian claimed his agreement with J-Lo included a $72,000 yearly salary with additional production pay, potentially increasing his compensation to $200,000 per year. But according to tabloids, however, he claimed that he received no production pay or overtime whatsoever. CNN further reported that Manoukian's suit claimed that he dealt with intolerable labor conditions, such as working more than 40 hours a week and being prevented from taking proper meal periods, which forced him to resign. J-Lo filed a countersuit seeking a minimum of $20 million in damages, claiming the former driver was allegedly blackmailing her for $2.8 million as he threatened to expose private information he overheard when chauffeuring her. So the countersuit alleged that he became hostile and angry after J-Lo rejected his desire to lead and appoint members to organize a security team for a music video production. J-Lo's countersuit was dismissed in December of 2012, and the singer ended up settling the original lawsuit for undisclosed terms in February of 2013. Wish we knew the terms though. Gilly Ayer was a longtime assistant for J-Lo until 2013 when she reportedly left without informing J-Lo she'd been looking elsewhere for work. Quiet quitting. According to sources, Gilly went to work for Jermaine Dupri a week after he joined Mariah Carey's management team. Now, J-Lo and Mariah Carey have been publicly painted as rivals for quite some time, so Gilly jumping ship to Lopez's big nemesis camp seemed to sting a lot. We're talking like butter on a burn a lot. Reports surfaced that J-Lo's then boyfriend Casper Smart allegedly ruffled feathers with a lot of J-Lo's staff. Casper always insisted that all of Jennifer's staff call him Mr. Smart, and even demanded that Gilly get him drinks. At least that's what a source told online sources. So with Jenny from the block allegedly doing nothing to set him straight, that may have been the breaking point as to why Gilly left. Gilly had enough. She was over it. She'd been looking to leave for some time, and as soon as Mariah hired Jermaine, she quit. J-Lo was stunned. Now, Gilly may not have publicly trashed J-Lo, but is there anything colder than a personal assistant leaving a celeb staff on short notice to go work for their rival? So, how bad did this hurt the former Fly Girl? Well, it's unclear, but in 2015, Page Six revealed that J-Lo reportedly had a no Mariah clause in her contract with her manager Benny Medina, barring him from managing Mariah Carey at the same time as her. So, oop. According to at least several of J-Lo's former staff members, she's earned herself the nickname Paylo because she paid her staff a lot less than they can make elsewhere. We're talking like half of what they can make elsewhere. Now this rumor's been going around for years. We're talking like back in 2003, when Jennifer was first with Ben Affleck. They were out in Vegas, they were having a good time, they had a big win, and Ben was feeling generous. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna tip the dealer $2,000. But before the dealer could actually claim the reward, J-Lo was like, no, you get $200. So, why does J-Lo pay her staff so little? She's like, well, you know what? I had to work hard to get my money, so you have to work hard to get yours. Which, like, I'm sorry, that's embarrassing. If you had to work so hard to earn your money, wouldn't you want to make it easier for others because you know how hard it is? Come on, queen. An ex-private airport employee called J-Lo a nightmare person on Twitter before dishing out several stories about negative interactions with the superstar. Twitter user @MoiraWebb claimed she worked at a private airport on Long Island when J-Lo was in her relationship with Mark Anthony. They said, I have so many stories about her being a rude and nasty person. It's gross to say, but each time she fails at anything, it delights me. So, okay, that's like really intense hating. Surely J-Lo couldn't be that bad, right? Wrong. Come on, you've been here long enough today. So Webb told 5 stories about brutal interactions with J-Lo, and these range. We're talking like, some were just kind of bizarre, some of them were just plain mean. But it definitely seems, like if you haven't figured it out already, J-Lo doesn't care about people if you're not her. The first story, she's got this standing catering order, even if she's only going like 20 minutes away, and that order needs to have a KFC bucket. So she was flying out in the morning before KFC opened, and her team freaked out that they didn't have the bucket. So this employee was demanded to go get some, was given some cash. They drove like a bat out of hell and begged KFC to open early, make one for her. They were excited it was J-Lo, they made one. But this worker actually didn't have enough cash. They had to give her a senior citizens discount to cover it. And as they're speeding back, they look up, the flight's taking off. Even though they're like, no, we can't leave without it. So they're like, Why did I even have to do that?
Well, Lady Gaga's former assistant Jennifer O'Neill claimed that she was owed payment for 7,168 hours of overtime, and claimed that she was responsible for ensuring the promptness of a towel following a shower and serving as a personal alarm clock for the singer so she could keep up with her hectic schedule. She also alleged that Gaga expected her to be at her service from the earliest waking hours and wanted her duties to extend to stadiums, private jets, fine hotel suites, yachts, ferries, trains, and tour buses. Now, she also alleged that the schedule meant she was unable to take breaks or even at times sleep. In her testimony though, Gaga said that Jennifer is an effing hood rat who is suing me for money she didn't earn, she said. She thinks she's just like the queen of the universe, and you know what, she didn't want to be a slave to one, because in my work and what I do, I'm the queen of the universe every day. Gaga then claimed that her assistant hadn't appreciated the perks of her job, stating she slept in Egyptian cotton sheets every night in 5-star hotels, on private planes, eating caviar, partying with photographer Terry Richardson all night, wearing my clothes, asking YSL to send her free shoes without my permission. It is like such an amazing luxury that I get to travel around the world and have planes, and she doesn't even see what luxury is. Now, in Hollywood, Sharon Stone is known for the terrible ways that she treats her staff. Doctors ordered Angelica Castillo, one of Sharon's former employees, to undertake a brief period of bed rest, but Sharon denied her request and told her that she would have to come into work that day. Then when Angelica mentioned that she was still in pain 4 months later, the actress allegedly called her crazy and stupid. Now, another employee, Erlinda Ellman, who was Sharon's nanny, spoke out about being fired in February 2011 after Sharon reportedly discovered she had wrongly been paid overtime. Erlinda alleged that Sharon made a number of disparaging comments about Filipinos, including calling them stupid people. Sharon shamed Erlinda for frequently attending church, and on one occasion forbade her from reading the Bible in her own room. Now, Sharon also ordered her not to speak to her 3 kids because she did not want them to talk like her. Then Holly Ann Hartman was Taryn Manning's assistant as well as her makeup artist. Holly Ann alleged though that she was physically attacked by the star. She even claimed that she'd been choked by Taryn during one particular altercation. Taryn was then ordered to stay away from Holly Ann after the allegations came to light, while the former's attorney said in a statement, they had a late night argument that turned into a bit of a physical altercation. Now, Holly Ann, who had been close friends with Taryn for a number of years before the altercation, made the decision to forgive the actor for the attack, and because of their close relationship, didn't want to see her prosecuted. As a result, Taryn was ordered to carry out just 1 day of community service following the incident, and was told by the judge that she had to stay out of trouble for 6 months to avoid a more severe punishment. But yeah, that doesn't seem too nice to me. Now, Anna Wintour has served as editor-in-chief of Vogue since 1988. She has become an important figure in much of the fashion world, praised for her eye-emerging fashion trends, but there's also another side to her. Her reportedly aloof and demanding personality has earned her the nickname Nuclear Wintour. Now, ever heard of the film The Devil Wears Prada? Yeah, that was based on an assistant's experience with Anna. Miranda Priestley is the main character in the story, and she is a monster to her assistants. Miranda is ruthless, demanding, and doesn't understand that her staff members have lives of their own. Now, she doesn't get close to anybody and expects her assistants to be there for her day and night. Now, interestingly enough, no one in the fashion industry has come out to dispute these claims about Anna, and when asked about the novel, Anna simply stated, "I always enjoy a great piece of fiction." Yikes. Mariah Carey is known to be a diva, but her former assistant, Yesler Oliver, revealed the full extent of Mariah's controlling behavior when she filed a lawsuit against the singer in 2014. And some of the details will astonish you, they are just crazy. Now, she testified that Mariah had her work 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Not only that, but she wasn't paid any overtime for her efforts and even had to forego meal breaks. She put up with this for 7 years, but eventually quit in March 2007 and decided to get some compensation for her abysmal treatment. Her lawyer explained, "My client put her family's life on hold while tending to Mariah Carey's family, and Mariah repaid her by underpaying her." Now, unfortunately, it's unclear whether or not she actually received any money from the lawsuit, but the treatment was horrible. Katherine Heigl had a fallout with Grey's Anatomy creator Shonda Rhimes, and things got messy, and this is due to how she behaved behind the scenes. Now, Katherine has also been labeled as difficult, as she always has wardrobe issues, doesn't get out of her trailer, and she questions the script every single day. So if she acts that way for the people she works for, you know she acts that way, and even worse, to the people who work for her. According to a source on the set of 27 Dresses, she reportedly refused to film any scenes until her pregnant assistant ran around and got her a Coke Zero. Her pregnant assistant. Now that is just messed up. Now, she also refused to eat lunch next to anyone or have anyone speak to her once the cameras stopped rolling. Due to her difficult behavior, she has earned a bad reputation with actors and directors alike, and that's not all surprising. Now, Madonna is awful to her fans out in the open, so it's really no surprise that she's rude to her staff behind closed doors. An anonymous source revealed when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, instead of being concerned for the dancer's well-being, Madonna had a meltdown. Another anonymous source said that Madonna does not pay very well, but she knows that the people she hires will work countless hours at less than premium wage just because she is Madonna. They also added that her ego is overinflated and she thinks that her staff are lucky to be in her presence. Now, her former nanny took to Facebook to let everyone know that she was over dealing with the singer's ridiculous demands and that she was quitting. Another former worker has stated that as a person, Madonna is totally overbearing and forces her staff to be available 24/7. Now, to prove how awful she is, in 2009, 5 staff members quit within 7 days. Yep. 5 different employees. 1 chauffeur, 2 nannies, and 2 personal assistants walked out on the star. Now, Madonna always says that she isn't a diva, but after hearing how she treats her staff, I think it's safe to say that she is a diva, and I would just never want to work for her. Lance Armstrong was regarded as a sports icon for winning the Tour de France 7 consecutive times from 1999 to 2005. But for much of the second phase of his career, Lance faced constant allegations of doping, and he denied it. That was until a confession during an interview with Oprah Winfrey in January 2013, when he finally admitted to all of his cheating in sports. But shortly after becoming Lance's personal assistant, Mike Anderson allegedly stumbled upon a box in his bathroom labeled with the name of a banned steroid, and the box soon disappeared. Now, as time went on, Mike started to feel more uncomfortable about things with Lance, as he had always denied he didn't dope. That's when, as Mike describes in a story, Lance fired him. He was asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, in his words, that would have made me liable for a large sum of money if I ever mentioned ever having worked for Armstrong. Now, he refused, and soon after he faced lawsuits and public scrutiny. Now, this was before the truth came out about Lance's doping, and he was essentially a scapegoat. He was painted by Lance's lawyers as a disgruntled schemer and essentially had to move to New Zealand to pursue his dreams of opening his own bike shop, and they did all of this to just cover up a lie, and it's a real shame. And finally, Harrison Chung was Christian Bale's personal assistant for over a decade, and he wrote the biography Christian Bale: The Inside Story of the Darkest Batman. Now, he released lots of shocking information about the star. He said if Christian was away filming on location, I would take care of his 5 pets, along with stray possums in the backyard, as a special request. I'd do anything from sniffing Christian's armpits for BO, right before he hit the red carpet, to making emergency sock runs if Christian was all out of clean ones. Sometimes duties were as exciting as traveling to film festivals, and as dull as watching Christian surf in case something needed to be done on shore. Now, he also said that Christian is often awful when fans approach him, as he'd reportedly lecture little girls about being rude and intrusive until tears streamed down their faces and their parents took them away from our table. Now, Harrison even told the Daily Mail, "My therapist would describe my condition as post-traumatic stress disorder, and it really seems like it after having to deal with all that stuff." Blake Lively has been in some hot water recently when it comes to how she treats people in Hollywood. Now, this has all come to light due to her film It Ends With Us. There were reports of drama on set. Now, Blake stars as the main character, Lily Bloom, and is also a producer of the film. She co-stars with Justin Baldoni, who is also the director of the film. Now, it's said that there was a feud between the 2 co-stars that fractured the production, which resulted in the cast and crew through picking sides. Not only this, but Blake has also been blasted as tone deaf and shallow after she hosted an interview with her It Ends With Us co-stars, and they failed to discuss the serious message behind the movie. There is no mention of DV during their chat, which is what the movie is about. Then, a lot of people have been coming out and accusing Blake of being a mean girl. A journalist released an interview she did with Blake in 2016 that made her so uncomfortable she wanted to quit her job. Norwegian interviewer Kirsty Flop posted a video called "The Blake Lively Interview That Made Me Want to Quit My Job" to her popular YouTube channel. Now in the clip, Blake is promoting the movie Cafe Society and is joined by her co-star Parker Posey. This interview happened months after Blake announced her pregnancy, so the journalist congratulated her by starting off the interview with congratulating her on her little bump. Now Blake didn't like this though and mocked her by repeating "Congrats on your little bump." Now Kirsty was clearly not pregnant and has now explained that she is infertile, so that comment from Blake hurt her even more. Now that wasn't all though. As the interview went on, the two co-stars eventually started ignoring Kirsty and just had a conversation amongst themselves. They completely ignored the interviewer. Now once time is up, both Blake and Parker appear to roll their eyes and pull a face as she leaves. Now other clips have been resurfacing of her being rude to her Gossip Girl co-stars, and it just doesn't look good for Blake. Could this finally be the last nail in the coffin when it comes to her career? Now in her new memoir, Rebel Rising, Rebel Wilson has shown us some insight into her life. Rebel revealed that her Grimsby co-star Sacha Baron Cohen is the previously unnamed Hollywood a-hole that is allegedly attempting to stop her writing about him in her upcoming memoir. He's hired a crisis PR manager and lawyers. He's trying to stop press coming out about my book, but the book will come out and you will all know the truth. I will not be bullied or silenced by high-priced lawyers or PR crisis managers, she said. The a-hole I'm talking about in one chapter of my book is Sacha Baron Cohen. Now she went into more detail saying there were some incidents on set, and she also claimed that she was asked to do reshoots, which made her feel uncomfortable on set. I filmed the scene after demanding rewrites. I still had to kiss him repeatedly, noted Wilson. She then told producers that she would not be doing any promotion for the film, and she added, "The movie bombed," which to me was karma enough. Zachary Quinto, who's best known for playing Spock in the Star Trek reboot film series, has been banned by a Toronto restaurant after they accused him of yelling at its staff during a brunch service. According to an Instagram post shared by Manita, a cafe and bar on Ossington Avenue, Zachary was a terrible customer who made our host cry and the rest of our brunch diners uncomfortable. They added that he yelled at our staff like an entitled child after he didn't reply to text to inform him that his table was ready, and refused to believe that empty tables in the dining room weren't available for him, despite being politely informed they were spoken for, the post continued. "Mr. Quinto, take your bad vibes somewhere else. We have many lovely celebrities join us at Manita, but you are not one of them." A representative for the restaurant would not elaborate on the incident, but confirmed to the Star that he has been banned from the restaurant until we receive an acceptable apology. Brad Pitt has had a lot of negative press around him recently, as his own children have been speaking out against him and how horrible he's been. Brad's divorce with Angelina Jolie was messy, but now his kids have been speaking up. Their daughter Shiloh filed paperwork to legally remove Pitt from her name on the day she turned 18. Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie Pitt submitted a petition to Los Angeles County Superior Court on May 27th to change her name to Shiloh Nouvelle Jolie, which was then approved. Now Shiloh isn't the only child to drop her father's last name, as in the playbill for the new musical The Outsiders, which their daughter Vivian helped Angelina produce, the teenager is listed as Vivian Jolie instead of Vivian Jolie Pitt, people confirmed. Now at this time, it's not clear if Vivian has also legally changed her name, but I think it's safe to assume that she probably will. Not to mention, during last November, while joining the Mu Pi chapter of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority at her university, Spelman College, the former couple's eldest daughter, Zahara, introduced herself as Zahara Marley Jolie, a video showed. Now besides changing their last names, this isn't the first time one of the kids has spoken out against their father. Angelina and Brad's son Pax has expressed his disdain towards his father, as in November last year, Pax's old social media post about his father resurfaced, and it didn't paint a pretty picture of the famous family's dynamic. A then 16-year-old Pax posted from his private account on Father's Day in 2020 about Brad. The message was written over a photo of Brad accepting an Oscar. "Happy Father's Day to this world-class a-hole. You time and time again prove yourself to be a terrible and despicable person." he began. You have no consideration or empathy toward your 4 youngest children who tremble in fear when in your presence, Pack said, referring to Zahara, Shiloh, and the twins Vivian and Knox. You have made the lives of those closest to me a constant hell. You may tell yourself in the world whatever you want, but the truth will come to light someday, so happy Father's Day, you effing awful human being. Yikes. Now, Kris Jenner is best known for being a momager to all of her kids, and being in charge all the time can cause stress, but Kris took it out on a poor worker. In an episode of The Kardashians, Kris was rude to one of her drivers. Now, for context, she wanted to have a private conversation with her daughter Khloe, so she asked the driver to step out of the car, which he did. However, he left his trunk open, which caused Kris to scream, "Close the trunk," multiple times. Now, she didn't even add a please. Khloe then got upset with her mom for yelling, saying, "You're yelling at the effing guy," but Kris yells again, "Close the trunk." This time, Khloe steps in, telling the person off camera, "Excuse me, sir, would you mind closing the trunk for a moment? Thank you so much." Now, Khloe, frustrated with her mom, says to her, "It's not what you say, it's how you say it." Now, everyone made fun of Amber Heard about her issues with Johnny Depp, but actress Lola Golandini had a very similar incident while on set with him. They were on the set of the movie Blow in 2001 when the incident happened. On the Powerful Truth Angels podcast, Lola said the director, Ted Demme, instructed her to burst out laughing in a scene where Johnny gives a monologue. But she didn't know that Ted didn't tell Johnny about this. Now, Johnny Depp, when they say cut, walks over to me, comes up to me, sticks his finger in my face and goes, "Who the F do you think you are? Who the F do you think you are? Shut the F up," Lola said. "I'm out here trying to say my lines and you're effing pulling focus, you idiot." She said on the podcast that this was her first day on set and the first time that she met Johnny. "This was my first studio movie, I'd just done indies until then, and I have the star who I have idolized, who I'm excited to work with, reamed me in my face. The only thing going through my head was, don't cry." Then there was an incident he had while filming City of Lies where he got into a fight with the location manager of the shoot, Greg Rocky Brooks. Now, Johnny punched him twice in the ribs before yelling at him, "I will give you $100,000 to punch me in the face right now." He allegedly continued to scream and berate him in front of a set full of people until Johnny's own bodyguards physically removed him from the scene. And finally, we have Emma Roberts being exposed by her American Horror Story co-star Angelica Ross. Now, last year, Angelica provided screenshots of emails and detailed accounts of conversations with Ryan Murphy as he abruptly stopped communicating with her 3 years ago, during which no one in his company, Ryan Murphy Productions, would offer her any information about her status within the American Horror Story franchise. Now, Angelica then claimed that Emma could be a bullying presence on set, once going so far as to misgender her in front of a director. Angelica, who is transgender, first spoke out about the alleged incident during an Instagram Live. "I'm standing in front of Emma, talking to her like this, and she goes in front of me, her back against the mirror. She goes, 'John, Angelica's being mean,' she claimed, seemingly referring to the American Horror Story director, John J. Gray. Angelica claimed that Gray then said, 'Okay ladies, you know that's enough, let's get back to work.' Then Emma looks at me and she goes, 'Don't you mean lady?' and turns around like this and covers her mouth. I'm staring at her, looking her dead ass in the camera, and I'm trying to process the F she just said." Angelica said that she feared retaliation if she reported the incident, and she admitted that she no longer spoke to Emma after the alleged on-set encounter. But afterwards, Angelica tweeted, "Thank you at Roberts Emma for calling and apologizing, recognizing your behavior was not that of an ally. I will leave the line open to follow up on your desire to do better and support social justice causes with your platform."